Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Fritz,
And I'm Nathan Johns.
and we are back today with our NASCAR Clash 2025 at Bowman Gray Stadium recap. Nathan, I'm going to tell you what, man, NASCAR is in full effect already.
I'm not going to lie, that might be the most exciting race I've ever been to. I absolutely loved it. The only thing I criticize is the 100 lap break. I wasn't a fan of that. I kind of wish it was a little bit more planned. He had something going on kind of during the intermission, and they didn't. But also, the racing, I feel, was very competitive. I mean, Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott battling for the lead for what, 50% of that last stage. I mean, for at least 50 laps. It felt like they battled and battled and battled. So I agree that there's some changes that could be made, but I think it was an all around good event. Little too many people for my liking, but I had fun.
Oh, man, it was buttholes to elbows in that place, man, and especially during the breaks. Uh, I
That
tell
was
you what,
definitely a mess.
I was up top during the breaks trying to get to the restroom that was only 100 feet away from the top of where our seats were at,
That was
from our
probably the worst
section, and
part of it was
it probably took
not
10
being able
minutes
to
to
get
get there.
anywhere. Yeah, that was the worst part of it was just not being able to move. I mean, people stepping over each other to go to the bathroom and go get a beer. It's definitely a little. There is some room for improvements, but the racing itself, I think, was. I
The
thought it was as good
product,
as it could have been. I mean, I
yeah, the
applaud
product.
NASCAR for not putting an infield wall in. That was the one big thing that the Clash had that needed to go was that infield wall. The groove was too small.
It
Being able
was
to kind of skip across those storm drains, it was a risk, but it made the track wider than it was originally, and it was kind of fun to see people just launch each other out of the way to get around each other.
it was definitely better than the road course. Back what was that?
The
19 they had
Daytona
that.
Road Course, yeah, that was too big. The LA Coliseum was just too small. This is like the Goldilocks of NASCAR. There's room for improvement, but this is like the Goldilocks of the Clash. This was just right for the amount of entertainment of what I thought the Clash should be.
Hey, they could always make some small improvements, but the product itself did not disappoint this weekend.
I mean, other than there not being as much chaos as I thought there was going to be, I 100% think this was probably the best Clash we've had in a very long time. I mean, nothing against Daytona's Clash, but when we started going to short tracks of the Clash, this one might be the best one we've had. I really want NASCAR to bring it back, maybe with
Hmm.
some modifications,
Well, that was
but not a whole
interesting.
lot.
My light just died on me.
I see that. But I mean, I was very impressed with the light show itself, and somebody brought this to my attention earlier, is with it, with them putting the light show on, that now saves the track to be able to have other events. So where it's not just a dirty, loud racetrack, it could now be a concert venue. It could be a sporting event like it already is with the football fields. If more tracks put in light shows like that, they'd be able to have lights going on for other events and keep them open for other reasons, just to bring in more income. I think that was a great point that somebody brought up. Um, I definitely think it would be fun to see other series go there. Honestly, and I know it's a controversial take. I think if they were to take NASCAR there again, other than the Clash, I think it should be a points race. Now, hear me out on this. I think we should be able to do two different heats, so split the field right down the middle. We had 36 cars out there. If we get 40 cars, a 20-car field, that's essentially two of the clashes. If you do a 20 lap and a 20 lap, top 10 transfer, then you have a 20 lap or 20 cars and 20 cars, and you take 10 from each. Those 10 cars could then race for, kind of like we did the rounds of qualifying. We could do the rounds to make, if you didn't make it past, transfer from the first two races, you would be so and so race wise. You'd be in whatever finishing position, and from 20th up was jockeying for a position in the final race. So that would be how they scored points wise. I think the Xfinity Series did that a few years ago, and I think that's with how small Bowman Gray is. There's no way we're getting 40 cars out there at once. But if we were to break it down into 20 cars, I feel like that would be a great way to do it. You know, take two heats of 20, and the top 10 from each make a third heat of 20 at the end to go from 20th to first and battle. I honestly feel like that would be a great, and it would be way more, chaos, battling for position. This race was more or less for bragging rights and a little bit of payout and the Bobby Allison trophy. You make it worth
That's
points
what
and
it's
you
all
make
about,
some sort
man.
of urgency. But if you make some sort of urgency and make it count towards the championship, people are going to come out in ways you didn't expect them to. And you're going to get a lot more contact. It will be like the old school Bristol vibe where people are moving each other to make passes. And I think the urgency to make those passes and to move up is going to create way more excitement for the fans. And I feel like it'll just be it'll create all new kinds of storylines of people having to get through the field to win the race. You'll get desperation moves like we had Ross Chastain to the Hail Melon. We're going to have a new breed
Could you
of
imagine seeing
desperation.
that at Bowman Gray? The Hail Melon?
If somebody pulled the Hail Melon, it would have to be into turn 1 and 2 because 3 and 4 there's that giant gap, and if I would hate to see somebody do it 3 and 4 because if you go in there, you're hitting that wall and you're just going into a 90-degree corner because there's no wall at the end of the pit road. Which that's the one thing I wish they did is when they did their 100-lap break, all the cars went off track and it was silent. Honestly, I kind of wish they did something where where you allowed 2 crew members on the track to service the car, and you got a certain amount of time you got to actually see them do it. You send 4 people out there to service the car, and that's it. They all have a golf cart or something. They roll out there and they service the car. Just under the break, you get to see them do a pit stop. We're right on the front stretch, even though we were on the back stretch, it wouldn't have mattered. But do something in that break.
They could have spread them around a little more. So that's what I would do. Spread them out a little more and stretch them around the track.
Put them in designated spots on track where you're separated by, I don't know how. I mean, obviously they'd have to coordinate that on track, but if they did some sort of, and they used to do a concert, if they did a light show during that intermission, I feel like that would have brought a lot more fan interaction, and it would have, not made it so boring. I mean, it was just kind of a moment in the race. Overall, the race was good. I mean, I'm pretty sure every single car was on the lead lap at the end of the first 100 laps, which is insane to me that nobody was a lap down yet. And then obviously when we get to the end of the race, Chase Elliott and Brian Blaney were battling through lap traffic for the win, which I do like Ryan Blaney's comments. He didn't really have the car to do anything with Chase Elliott, but if he did, he really couldn't because, people would have chased him out of town with pitchforks, which, to be fair,
that was funny. Wrong. That comment was funny.
That might have been my favorite comment because, I mean, he had a choice. He could have moved him.
They straight up told him, too. They said, that's kind of the point of racing here is being chased out of town with pitchforks. Yeah, he's like, well, I don't know what you like to be done, but not me.
And I want to give a shout out to Burt Myers. I don't know if he tunes in or even knows about us, but you, my friend, are a class act. You played to the fans and you absolutely gave Ricky a ride. I kind of wish there was more to it, but he definitely played the crowd, and the scolding of Ricky Stenhouse definitely made that way better than it was going to be originally. I mean, Ricky straight up priest, Burt Myers. And I really do wish, something would happen to Ricky for doing that. Somebody pays him back. But I mean, dude, he launched him from the start finish line. He was sideways before they even got to turn on. He just picked the rear wheels up and
That
sent
was
them to the
uh,
infield.
that was probably actually the worst crash of the whole weekend.
Uh,
I
it
mean,
was
it was one of the
yeah.
hardest.
I don't know that impact of Ty Gibbs trying to get at Justin Haley and getting all four wheels off the ground was probably the
No,
most bizarre
that
and
wasn't a
hardest.
crash though. That was just a damn hop. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
he
talking
had
about
all
somebody
four
hitting
wheels.
the wall, and I mean,
Oh
because
yeah, that was slow
that's the
steaming.
only wreck that anybody had any fluid pouring out of their car. How hard he hit the damn thing.
Yeah,
So
I mean he knocked the radiator out of the thing. That was the hardest hit of the weekend. But I mean, the hometown crowd definitely played it up, and Burt took in every minute of it, and I absolutely loved it. I want to see him come back next year for the Clash. I want to see, Burt Myers and Recky Spinhouse Jr. 2.0.
now
I
wasn't
gotta,
that
I
a
gotta
Rick?
have more.
Wasn't that a Rick Ware car that he had?
Yes, I believe so.
And I heard
I
he
believe
actually
that
had to
was Rick Ware.
pay for that ride.
I think he works on them, so we might have to pay for it. But I'm not. I know he
But,
works on them normally.
hey, Tim Brown, another local guy, did a hell of a job too. Man, he cracked into the top 10.
I was quite impressed with
And
that race.
in that hunt car, the 15 car, that was a beautiful looking car too. To be honest with
And
you,
the fact that it stood out as well as it did definitely played to. I mean, obviously Burt Myers' car matched his, but Tim Brown's car definitely looked like his car, and it was kind of cool how they were able to get their own, you know, wraps, or I wouldn't say wrap. They looked like their car just in a Cup Series form. It was kind of nice to see that.
there were actually a lot of nice looking cars out there. Josh Berry's car looked really cool. It was like plain,
That
but
plain red car with
but
the 21.
it wasn't overdone, and the brightness of the color, the red orange color that they had on it, it was just
I
a
do
nice
think that
looking
was
car.
cool. Yeah, and it was definitely an old. It looked like almost like a reverse retro. Like they normally run the same scheme for the Wood Brothers. The fact that it was kind of reversed was kind of cool to see just that little bit of change. Is usually you have the white car with the red roof, and it was an all red car with white numbers, and it actually I can kind of dig that. I do like the old school vibe that it always looks like. It always looks the same, but at the same time, that's not a bad, paint scheme or wrap for that car. I actually kind of liked it.
So I
I mean,
saw like our friend Matt from Breakhard said Denny Hamlin's hauler was as plain as his championship trophy case, but
that
his
might have
car
been on my highlight reel for best comments of the weekend. Is that
but
one definitely got
actually
me excited.
if you actually looked at it, his car wasn't. So that was actually kind of a good sign, I would say, for Denny.
Yeah, and there's that I think you and I determined this just after that video was posted. But apparently, King's Hawaiian Rolls is now on a JGR sponsor for Denny Hamlin. Uh, I mean, great. At
Hey,
the same time, and I guess any sponsor you can get, he'll get. But
when it
it
comes
sounds
to
like
this
they're going to be a
sport,
majority sponsor, which is going to be odd seeing Denny go from a shipping company to a food company. I wasn't prepared for that. I just want to see how many Minions paint schemes they put out. That's really all I'm there for. How many bread jokes he makes. I really don't know how to react to it. I mean, you know just as well as I do that I really wanted to give him the business, and I ended up giving him the business at the track. He never reacted, but it's still fun to get the drivers' heads. I mean, it's in the spirit of Bowman Gray. You got the fans yelling at the
well,
drivers acting a fool. I think it played
but
out really well.
back to the action, though. I mean, I thought the heat races and Saturday night were exciting with, what were the 25 lap heats, 4 heats? Man, Sunday was even more. 200 laps and nobody sat down.
It was kind of hard to sit down because with all
You
the
couldn't
people
see
standing
if you
up, you
did.
couldn't see anything. But I mean, you and I were on TV quite a few times just because we were 3 rows back. But there was action everywhere. I mean, if you sat down, you missed a spin or you missed somebody launching somebody else. I mean,
I mean, if
it
you wanted
might
to
have
watch the
been the
race, then
greatest
you
race
you
I've
couldn't sit
seen.
down unless you were in the front row.
Yeah, I mean, you had to lean over top of people to get it. I think everybody was leaning on top of each other just to get a
Oh,
glimpse of it.
everybody was leaning against each other, like propping each other up and everything,
I mean,
man.
I was halfway out the aisle
It
for
was
half
crazy.
the stuff I saw. I mean, I ended up going in and looking at some of the videos and pictures that NASCAR posted. And I guarantee that at least 50% of those photos, you could point me out in a crowd. I mean, it doesn't help. It didn't hurt that I had a Jeff Gordon flame red jacket on. But I mean, you had what was it, City Auto Group?
City
Whatever the
Chevrolet,
City Chevrolet, that's what it
the
was.
Cole Trickle uniform
I mean,
replica jacket.
you stood out in a crowd very easily. The red
I
jacket also
I
helped for
had
me.
people up. I had people in the concourse compliment me all night long. Uh, One guy was giving me a scarf to sign. I was like, man, I can't sign Cole Trickle, but I can sign my autograph from my podcast. But I
I
don't
mean,
want any
it was
copyright
fun.
issues going on with trying to sign Cole Trickle or any fraudulent charges against me.
But I mean, I'm gonna be brutally honest, and I'm a big supporter of the Clash. But I'm gonna be really honest. I kind of liked Saturday better than Sunday. Sunday was a little bit of a disappointment, but then again, it was the biggest event of the weekend. You know, the light show definitely brought me to my feet. The action on track was good. I feel like if there was a little bit more urgency in the drivers, I feel like it would have been way over the top excitement. I mean, if they made that a points race, like I was saying earlier, the excitement and the urgency level would skyrocket, and this could be an absolute staple on the season, almost like a wild card race where anybody who's anybody could win that race. You can
So
43 or 40 drivers out there and tell them that a win or a playoff spot is on the line. You better believe that somebody's going to push somebody and there's going to be a brawl in the infield like typical Bowman Gray. And that's what I wanted to see. And I was a little disappointed that we didn't have more, altercations. But then again, we did have a massive altercation with Kyle Busch, more or less bump drafting Justin Haley for 3 laps, which was pretty great.
So before we get any further, I do see people coming on and off, and just to let everybody know, this tonight is a double live edition of Switching Grooves, and we are doing our NASCAR edition first, and we will be interviewing 410 Sprint car driver Brendan Spitholler just after this episode at 9 o'clock this evening. So if you're looking for Brandon, he'll be on at 9. We appreciate everyone tuning in to watch our show tonight. And we look forward to interviewing Brandon later on. So back to the NASCAR, Nathan. I'm going to tell you, though, man, we actually have Ashley asking us what is our favorite moment. So to be honest with you, as much as I'm not a fan of him, I thought it was pretty interesting to watch Denny Hamlin use the outside lane to pass people. Like, nobody thought that was going to happen.
Well, Ryan Preece pulled that off, shortly after that. He went from like sixth to, I think, third to make the show, which I was quite impressed with. I mean, he had the experience in the prior race, but still, nobody else had done that except for Denny. I mean, it was definitely kind of interesting watching some guys be able to make it work, and others just drop the anchor. But did you have any other favorite moments from it? Yes, I agree with that, Jonathan. That was probably the best short track racing we've seen in a while. That might actually have saved the short track racing in NASCAR currently. I mean, that's about the only thing that's kept us, safe with short track racing, because lately I feel like the packages sucked until they brought in the different compounds. But sorry, Russ, did you have any
No,
other
you're
favorite
fine.
moments?
Absolutely acknowledge our fans, dude. I love that. That's fine. To be honest, the whole thing was a favorite. I mean, I can't really pick one or the other to say one was better than the other, but to see Chase Elliott go from, you know, he went from leading the race and he faded off, and then they made a handful of changes during the break and then worked his way back up to retake the lead. That was pretty cool to watch too, especially at a track like Bowman Gray.
I was trying to figure out how to pull up Jonathan's comment. Jonathan writes, it reminds me of watching local short track racing. I'm not gonna lie, that was one that I thought of. I'm gonna quote Kevin Robinson on this one. He sent me this one earlier. It looked like the local go-kart track. It looks like somebody used to get a local go-kart track. Just people punting and running each other over. I mean, that's what I think of when I think of short track racing, is people getting aggressive, using the bumper to make passes. That's what I think of. Super speedways are great, but you can only do so much with the wind. You got to use that chrome horn eventually. I mean, this is like watching old school Bristol with Dale Sr. and Terry Labonte. I mean, it was great. I think that
I
was the first time I've seen a race that exciting in a short track package in forever. And we went from down low Bristol to up high Bristol to whatever they want to call it now.
yeah,
It
all
almost
over
makes me think
Bristol.
of Martinsville. You've got like a cross between Martinsville and Bristol at Bowman Gray. It's kind of flat. Well, I mean, though Martinsville's kind of flat, but you got to use the inside line. But
I'm,
Bristol you use the bumper to pass people. It was like almost the happy medium of both. I
I
loved it.
know. Here are some things that really impressed me this weekend with the entire event, and it had nothing to do with the racing. The facility, the changes that NASCAR made to the wall and everything, they did a phenomenal job. I'm going to tell you what, the place looked excellent. The
It
only
looked
thing
up
they
to
could have
date.
done better was put two more jumbotrons in, one in turn one and one in turn three, and made them bigger because we couldn't see from across the track at all. It was
And you
like,
had to watch over your shoulder for turn two, which did make it kind of difficult.
yeah.
I
So
kind of wish they used the Jumbotron where they were having the scoring pylon on the athletic center. I kind of wish they had used that. I mean, they would have had one in turn four, one in turn two, and one on the Jumbotron. But even put one down at the turn one and two end and use the Jumbotron on the athletic center. I feel like would have been cool. And they did enough
but
video.
the fan zone was set up excellent. I think it was nice, wide open area. The parking, especially if you had the parking pass for the on-site parking, it was great. They got us in and they got us out super fast, super easy, no bullshit, no hassle. And even the line we had to wait in on the way in on Saturday night, or Sunday night. Saturday night we didn't have much of a line at all because we got there super early. But
Yeah.
we got there what, 3,
Yeah, we were there
and
probably about 3:34 because Kyle was supposed to go on stage at 4:15, and we beat him to the stage. I think they still had Joey Logano on stage.
but the line was probably backed up about a mile or so, and we had to wait in that. And I'll tell you, we didn't wait very long at all. So,
Yeah.
and my hats are off to the police in the area and everybody that was doing traffic control, and the stadium faculty and their staff. They did an excellent job with this event. I'm going to tell you what, it's like they've been doing it all along.
People just
And
need to pay attention to them more often.
but um, man, I was super impressed with that, man. I haven't even seen that around here.
That
So,
might be the first time I've seen an event like that go so fluently. Like for having a big event kind of just thrown on them and never running it before, that definitely rivals a lot of races I have been to in the past. I mean, going to Daytona, it's a mess getting out of the parking lots. Even when you buy a pass, it's a mess getting out. They essentially had, I think it was 5 lanes of traffic, which is way less than they have in Daytona. And we were out of the track and on the highway within, I'd say, half an hour, you would think. I mean,
And
does that sound about
even when
right?
we were at Bristol, we parked in the lot that was literally right next to the racetrack,
Yeah.
and we didn't have a lot of trouble getting out of there either. So,
The
it's
traffic is
like,
what surprised me is it was so easy to, keep moving. Like usually you're sitting in traffic for what an hour with that. I mean, we got out pretty early, but at the same time, you know, even on Saturday when we came out after the race, we might have sat in traffic, in the parking lot for maybe 10 minutes at most before we were on the highway. I mean, out of the parking lot might have been
yeah.
5 minutes. It might have been 5 minutes, get down the street to the
And
intersection, but we did really good. I liked it.
we actually got out faster on Sunday night than we did Saturday night,
Yeah,
which was amazing.
we beat a lot of people out because we watched the burnout and then ran.
Yeah, we hightailed it out of there. We
But
we we
even
were knew
on
exactly what we were
Saturday, it
doing.
wasn't that bad. I was kind of surprised how easy it was to get out of the parking lot. I mean, after we got everybody in the car and got moving, there really wasn't a whole lot of restriction. I mean, people taking their turns getting out of there was a little bit of an issue, but when isn't it? But I mean, once you got out on the road, they kept people moving. It wasn't like you were sitting still for more than maybe 2 minutes at a time, if that. I mean, you moved a good, few car lengths and then you would stop, but it wasn't like you sat there for more than maybe a minute at that. Like it
But yeah,
wasn't
I mean,
jumping over standstill.
the only complaints that I really have about the weekend were just the slight little things. Like, I mean, the actual, not, and I'm not talking about the independent vendors, but I'm talking about the track concession stand. The food could have been a little bit better tasting for the price, and the portions could have been just a little bit bigger for what you paid for them. So,
And the
but
souvenir cup
other
refills definitely frustrated me because there was no refills. So you
that
keep buying
that
souvenirs.
was that kind of that pissed me off a little bit because my friend was told it was free refills. So I went back up to get me a refill, and they told me no, it's $2. And then the lady come back and said, no, you don't get free refills. I said, well, they just got one, so I want one. I
Yeah,
paid for that. I paid for that, so you at least owe me one free refill because of that. And they gave it
it
to
was
me.
definitely
So I
frustrating.
mean, but I'm gonna tell you, but it's just little tidbit stuff that I'm not gonna sit here and nitpick at. Overall, it was a great experience. It was a great weekend, and the product was not disappointing on track. So, and I just don't know. Everywhere you look, there was action. There was people bumping. There was people banging. There was definitely paint being traded, and that's what it's all about. That's what you want to see at a track like that.
And that might have been the most electric atmosphere I have ever seen from the fans. I mean, you almost get the vibe of like Talladega rowdiness with the
It's like
excitement of they know it's coming from Bristol.
it's like old school, down home,
Short track almost.
nitty gritty dirt track fans, or I mean short track fans. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and yeah, like our buddy Eric Eastep said on his show, the whole point of going out to LA was trying to attract new fans, but towards the end there, it just wasn't working anymore. I mean, the stands were half bare, and it wasn't cool, And I liked this year that they didn't have silly concerts before the race. They had a DJ up there playing some really good music. It appealed to everybody. It was all different types, and they had a lot more on stage appearances than they have in the past. So it was really fun. And hey, speaking of that, the person that we were, well, I didn't really talk, but the lady that you were talking to in line waiting to cross the street the other day on Saturday night when we first
Okay,
got to the
I
track,
do know what you're talking about. Okay, I had to think
she
about it.
was the girl on stage doing all the interviews.
See, I didn't realize that, so that's kind of cool.
Remember she said she worked for NASCAR. So
Yeah, because she went into the infield. I didn't realize she was doing it outside the track. So that's kind of cool.
So yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But what about you? I mean, what were some of your favorite moments? What are the things that you liked and what you didn't like?
I'm not gonna lie. I think the modified race was a little bit better than the Cup cars. I mean, in general, I feel like the level of competition was there. But then again, you've got that moment the Cup cars first came on track. I mean, the modified race ended at like 4 o'clock. So we sat, or 3 or 4 o'clock. We sat there for like 2 or 3 hours waiting on the Cup cars to finally come out.
Yeah, I went and took a
And I'll
nap.
tell you, when they first came out, the chills that went through my body was insane. Like you felt like it was a surreal moment. Like you obviously were witnessing history, but just that feel when they first came out, goosebumps, chills, whatever you want to call it, they all came to, and it was just an electrifying feeling. You're about to witness these cars closer than you ever been before. I mean, Bristol, you can get close to the track. This felt like you were, 10 foot away from the car when they went by you, and it was probably the most insane feeling I've ever had. I mean, and I didn't like the practice of the qualifying. I felt like it was a little awkward because they had so many cars on track for practice, and then they cut the field in half for qualifying. Excuse me. But
Yeah, and then
when
they
they
put
first came
so
out,
many
it was
cars
just
on track anyway.
yeah. It was definitely a crazy feel, feeling these cars, and I know that they're said to be loud. I've never felt them to be very loud before until we went to this race. This might be the best fan experience I've ever had with them because I've been on pit road before and they didn't feel that loud. This is a whole new level of almost fan interaction. Like you could almost throw a beer can and hit a car on track. The fence was high enough that you could see the cars over the wall. Like it was, but you were right up on the wall. So it wasn't like you were way further back to where you couldn't see over the wall. Like you were on top of the track looking over the wall at the cars. Like, and I think I took a photo from the stands. We were close enough you could see the display inside the car and see the car behind them in the camera. So it was kind of cool to be able to, see the inside of the car from the seats and not have to be on board to see that camera, which I always thought it was right in the center of the car. It's actually off to the driver's left, almost like the mirror they'd have in the pillar. It was inside the car on the dashboard, kind of at an angle, so you can just kind of glance down at it, which I thought
Why?
was kind of nifty how they did that.
And I also noticed on the back of the cars when they were sitting there and as they were staging in front of us, that's also where the camera itself is mounted on the rear of the car,
Yeah,
towards basically directly behind the driver. If you would make a straight line from
yeah, it's not
the
dead
driver
center;
back,
it's offset to the left, which was kind of nifty. That with even though you're supposed to have a mirror here, which I don't know if they still do,
I
but
believe
they've
they
got
still
that
do. Yeah,
video display here, and then it just lines up with that left side of the car, which was kind of nifty to see that. I actually thought, I've heard about it and, we've seen clips of it on TV, but seeing it in person definitely gives you a new perspective of how it is. Like, I actually kind of enjoyed being able to be close enough to see those little details. I mean, I remember texting you when they had the red flag, as I talked about going down and playing rock, paper, scissors with the driver because we were
yeah,
close enough. We could have done that, which was insane to me.
it was
Walk down to
crazy.
the fence. We were, 2 rows back. Walk down and just rock, paper, scissors on top of the concrete wall in front of you. They were close enough. They probably could have seen us and played back. We just never got the chance to do it. But
Yeah, it was definitely fun.
and I another thing I really liked is usually we start the year and there really is no tempers. I mean, other than Ricky Stenhouse Jr. last year going after somebody, there really wasn't a whole lot of drama at the Clash in LA. This year we saw what Kyle Busch and Justin Haley going at it. We had Ty Gibbs and Justin Haley. We had Ross Chastain talking he was going to beat the living brakes off of Haley. I mean, everybody was mad at Haley, but everybody was mad at somebody. And that's what you want from a short track race. Is you want all kinds of tempers flaring,
No,
and we
I
don't
do.
really get that.
I went back and watched the overhead view of I believe it was Hamlin or who was it that dumped Hocevar? Or was that Hocevar? Was
I
it
don't remember.
McDowell?
Or were
Might have
you
been
talking about
McDowell. It was
over in turn 3 and 4 during the heat races?
no. The main race last night or Sunday night.
I'm not. Oh, I know Spinhouse
But
dumped Burt Myers. I don't remember who dumped Hocevar.
it might have been Michael McDowell. But they actually got whoever hit them and spun them out actually got hit in the ass by Joey Logano to help spin him out. I believe it was Hamlin
Maybe.
because he had actually spun Hamlin out a few laps prior to that, and then Hamlin was going to retaliate and nudge him out of the way, and then Hamlin just got hit hard by Logano and
Yeah.
really took him out harder. And I remember I was listening to his radio channel at that time, and he was like, "I don't know what the hell more he wants from me or what more, you know." But it wasn't meant to be that hard, you know. Hamlin was definitely going to dump him and move him out of the way, but
Yeah, it was definitely fun to watch.
But for Chase Elliott, I mean, it's cool for him that now he actually joins his dad on the Clash winner list.
That was definitely a cool little tidbit that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know that Bill had won also at.
Bill won. Oh man, how long ago did he win? It's been a long time ago. But he won it a long time ago. The closest Elliott or Chase ever came to winning was second at the road course, I believe.
Well, it hasn't Chase. I know what Corey LaJoy, Chase Elliott, Daniel Suarez, and Bubba have all raced at at Bowman Gray before, because they were part, and Kyle Larson also, because they were part of that next generation that came up all at once.
Yeah, they were in I know Kyle did in the K&N series,
and I know
when he was a lot younger.
Yeah, and I know that Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Ryan or not. I don't know if Ryan Blaney was in that class or not, but I know that Chase,
he might have been.
Corey, and I think Daniel Suarez were all in the group that came together, and they did a documentary of them all at Bowman Gray at once. I mean, it was before they announced Bowman Gray as the Clash, but I remember seeing clips of that race, and it's definitely cool to see those guys go back to their home, their roots, and go run that track. It was definitely kind of interesting.
Speaking of Corey LaJoy, that was one driver we didn't see this weekend.
Well, it's because he's a part-time driver, and I was honestly, I kind of wish he was there because I would have added to the hit list of people wanting to beat each other up. I feel like that would have been a great way to have all the guys that didn't like each other. I mean, heck, we could have had Corey and Jimmy Johnson going at it. We could have had Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse going at it. We could have had all-out brawls. They should have set the boxing ring up in the infield.
I don't know if Jimmy Johnson would have been able to handle it.
I think it would have been awesome.
But it was definitely fun to watch. Chase led, I would say, 90% of the laps. I mean, when he got knocked around.
And the thing I didn't like is once you got leading, there really wasn't any contest for wheat.
Yeah, you were pretty much scot-free unless you got screwed over by a lap car.
I mean, in the heat races, the leaders went green to checkered, so that was kind of disappointing that there wasn't more passing for that aspect. But we did get a few different leaders during the races. Denny Hamlin did end up getting by Chase, and Chase rooted him out of the way and took the lead back. But all in all, it was a pretty decent race when it came to that.
I'm still in shock and awe though that 200 laps and we didn't sit down for any of them.
Yeah, that was definitely
that was insane.
But I think we've had enough with the NASCAR thing. I think we need to start preparing for our interview.
Yep, we are. We are going to call it a NASCAR show right here and get ready to bring on Brandon Spithaler for our dirt version of the show at 9 p.m. So don't forget to follow us so you don't miss it. Subscribe to us on YouTube. and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about Bowman Gray. And if you do have any questions for our upcoming interviewee for the All-Star Circuit of Champions dirt driver Brandon Spithaller, make sure you tune in and comment, and we will do our best to get the comment and question asked to Brandon before he needs to go and do his own thing. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you in just a short while.